this. This is why I feel burdened about this, because I want Christians to understand that there's so much more happening. When we look at our world and we talk about issues like transhumanism, when's the last time you heard a message on a Sunday morning preached on transhumanism? But this is massive. What's happening right now? The technology that's being developed or has been developed, and what the agenda is here, the transhuman agenda. Like that, this is a whole other number of podcasts in and of itself. But this is the kind of stuff that you won't find in a church, you won't hear about in church. But it's right now, it's kind of the next big thing that's going to hit our world. And I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I've listened to a lot of interviews and read a whole bunch of stuff from really smart people, from scientists, from people in that space, talking about how, they believe that they can cause the human life expectancy to go on forever. That you can genetically modify your body, turn it into something else. That way you could live forever. This is what transhumanism is doing right now. And it's a real thing. And it's something that's going to affect every Christian. But we're not talking about that, the implications of that. This subject, again, I've already hit on it, but aliens. This is normal stuff now. And this is not conspiracy anymore. The governments have already let the cat out of the bag. UFOs, UAPs, they're known now. There's no hidden secret anymore. There's stuff is definitely flying around up there. Some of it could be man-made. There's a good chance that a lot of it's not man-made. It's coming from somewhere else. Where is that? What does that look like? What does that mean? You look at the abduction phenomenon. Millions of people have been abducted all over the world who don't know each other. The whole thing can't be a lie. Can't be all made up. Christians have claimed to be abducted. Yet, when do you hear that talked about in the church? Well, you don't. Conspiracy theories in terms of the elite society of the world. You want to talk about the Illuminati. You want to talk about the entertainment industry. You want to talk about what happens behind the scenes there. You want to talk about politics. You want to talk about government. You want to talk about the shady stuff that happens there. The stuff that's going on behind the scenes with our world leaders, stuff that they're doing, things that they're involved with. It's no coincidence that in my biggest video is about the fact that is Biden a clone. That's a real thing. And there's so much stuff out there on that. But think about that for a second. This is a real topic. He's a clone. What if he is? What if he is a clone? What if they have that technology to do that? Just think about the implications of that and how that affects our everyday life. These are topics that you won't hear about. Talking about this kind of technology that exists out there that's very real, or potentially very real. And it's as the church, we're so focused on 5 ways to live a better life, three benefits for being in community, or here's 10 different ways that you can help to read your Bible better, or there's stuff that we're talking about that in and of itself is good, but it's not addressing some of the real stuff that's actually happening in our world that's affecting so many people. And I'm burdened for this stuff, these topics, these ideas, these things that I see, that I'm learning about, that I'm discovering. And it's someone's got to talk about them. We have to address it. We can't just pretend we can't just become naive to it. We can't just become ignorant to it. We can't just pretend like these things aren't happening. I think as Christians, we forget, we just choose to, not acknowledge what's actually happening in our world. When you want to talk about sex trafficking, you want to talk about there's so much stuff going on. And then you want to add into the unseen realm, territorial spirits, fallen angels, demons, other creatures that are impacting our world. And it's man, I don't know. I feel like I cannot not talk about this stuff anymore. I can't ignore it anymore. I can't pretend like it doesn't exist anymore. It's just I got to figure out. I want to bridge that gap, and so this is the reason why I'm doing this. This is the reason why I'm talking about what I'm talking about and what I'm going to talk about, especially in this podcast. This is why, because I think it's important, because I think it affects our everyday life. What infuriates me is when I hear pastors basically mock this idea. When I hear pastors, mockingly allude to this kind of stuff that is out in the world, but then will put their just this traditional or this I don't know the right word, legalistic spin on it, where it's a bunch of garbage. Don't pay attention to that stuff. Let's just focus on Jesus. What? Like, what does that even mean? Millions of Christians right now are having encounters and having experiences with stuff that the church won't even address. And the response that the church is let's just focus on Jesus. Like, let's not talk about it. Let's not think about it. Let's not pay attention to it. The world will be the world. And it's like, that both infuriates me and it breaks my heart, and it causes me to just do what I'm doing. And so what's the solution? Like, what do we do with this? How does this draw people to Jesus? Well, I want to say this. Looking at where our world is going and seeing how our culture is becoming more and more secular, more and more anti-God, how Christianity particularly is under attack. I just read a thing talking about how the Bible most likely will become outlawed at some point in the near future. Not any other religious book, just the Bible. And then if that happens, then any talk of Jesus will be banned or outlawed. Not any other God, false God, just talking about Jesus. And so when we see our world and our culture going that way, and we see all of these things that are happening in government, in politics, in the unseen realm, in our culture, things that are going to affect our everyday life, things that are affecting Christians. This is why we have to talk about it, because people's faith is going to be challenged, because as time goes on and as the church gets more and more squeezed from culture, the more the faith of the church is going to be tested. And I think, and as I said this in a previous episode, if the church is not prepared to handle what's coming, there's going to be a lot of people's faith is going to be shattered. There's going to be so many cracks in the foundation of people's faith, because they're going to start, I guarantee you, we're going to start seeing things. I mean, we're seeing it right now. Just the church is choosing to not talk about it. But eventually, we're going to get to a place where you can't ignore it anymore. It's just going to be there. And it's at that moment that it's like people are going to be forced to like have a wake-up call. But their faith we're going to discover the lack of faith that people actually had. When the bubble of comfortable Christianity gets popped, we're going to see how true people actually were, how true to God they were, how real their faith was, because it's coming. And we're going to get into all of these separate things. Like, I want to do a whole bunch, at least a few episodes on transhumanism. I do want to talk about government deception and the elites and, people running the world from behind the scenes. Like, that stuff, again, it's just not conspiracy anymore. And I want to talk about aliens again, because that's another thing that keeps coming up in the media, in the world. And so we're going to get into all of that. But it's these kind of topics that if you're not ready for, and you have no paradigm for that, like pretty much 99% of the church doesn't, at least the church that I've been around in my 40 years on the earth, it's going to be very scary for people. And so my heart is, I just want people to be aware, Christians to be aware of what's happening out there, of not just turning a blind eye, not being ignorant, not being naive, because this is why I'm talking about this stuff. This is why I think it's important. This is why, or this is how it's going to grow our faith in the Lord.